This is episode 84 of Art Talk, and today I have a special guest with me, Alison Dollery. Alison is a visual artist, curator, who is very interested in how we perceive our body, and she has several projects around that made me very interested in what she is doing. And so, welcome, Alison. Thank you for being with me. I don't want to spill the beans because I think there's so much we can talk about, and it will be very good for our listeners to do so. So
fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So you are interested in our bodies. Is this specifically the female body?
I think it goes through phases depending on what part of the project I'm on. I would say for a long period I tried not to give the bodies a specific gender because it was specifically around the sort of skin and flesh and the loose skin. But because in all the images you're seeing my body, then it does generally tend to be about the female body.
Yeah. And we come to that because I did some research for myself into the female portrait because I wanted to show the beauty of people as they are, which they have lost in a way. And I found that a lot of women don't want to have their own face painted.
Yeah.
And that has to do with the male gaze, but we get to that and how that has defined us over centuries. But what made you use your body as the canvas?
Yeah,
it's very, I mean, if you look at your work, it's multi-layered, but in a way that you don't expect.
Yes. So it's actually a very personal story. In 2017, I had what's known as bariatric surgery or weight loss surgery, and I was extremely unwell. And I had the surgery because I was getting to the point where I was losing my mobility. So I lost 10 stone in weight, which I wasn't expecting to happen. And I then I ended up having anorexia after that, which is the complete opposite to, but I went through this period of about 5 years of dealing with the physical, psychological, and just the difficulties around handling body image. So I started to draw my own body in a way so that I could understand how it was changing. That's where a lot of the kind of initial flesh images come in, because I lost the weight so quickly. I had a huge amount of loose skin, and that's where you get a lot of these images of skin. I think when I was making the images, I was kind of self-horrified. But now I've started showing the images publicly, there are so many people that are relating to them, that have had children, operations, that are saying that this is just like my body. So that's amazing to experience for myself and for the viewer. But the body specifically as a canvas. So I decided to paint myself, and I've made a film which I need to actually release. I made it originally in 2019, and it's where I basically move through the film and I look like a painting. And I just called it Body as a Canvas because that was just the most obvious title, because I didn't want to give it kind of a medical name or it was very much around the gaze. I was doing a lot of research around that. And I was doing a lot of research around Carolee Sheehan at the time because she just passed away. So these kind of things all lined up. And then at the same time, I took part in a performance at the Tate with, it was a workshop run by Harold Offer, but they asked us to sort of stay and do a performance for the Franz West exhibition in the afternoon. And that was around the abject and turn your body into a sculpture. So this using the body as a material just all aligned at that point for me. And then since then, it's just been the main point of focus of how do I explore this? How do I research this? What do I need to know? And like you said, you start to go through the historical canon of art. And then this like massive project exploded. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a former conversation with Karen Turner, and she paints also bodies of female bodies, especially that are, not what we are used to look at, because that's all skinny. And these are people who have a volume, which I find interesting, because not only because we are, the whole skinny thing is defined by what I think is the male gaze. A lot of men are the fashion designers. But when I was doing my academy and the live painting, I was way more interested in painting the women who have something to paint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Than the ones you think, oh my God, you can put a skeleton that's the same.
Yes.
So yeah, it is interesting how we as women look at ourselves, and the changes our body goes through, and the awareness you need to have to accept yourself as you are, to see the beauty of it.
Yeah, 100%. We haven't been taught as a society to do that. So I think it's something we're relearning at the moment.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of self-acceptance in there, and this level of normality that no one actually looks how. I mean, the heroin chic really affected me in the 90s. Heroin chic, I should say. Not heroin, heroin. The Kate Moss very skinny models, because they're not real, and they're the minority of bodies. So how do you, I think I try to kind of portray this body realism, and I don't want to comment specifically on other people's bodies, because I feel like they can kind of take their own responsibility for that. But then there is also this awareness that I have been every single dress size from a size 8 through to a size 26. And what you learn about that is that your body doesn't change shape. It stays the same shape. The lumps you have still stay in the same place. They're just bigger or smaller. And you can go to the gym and you can do all that. But actually, I kind of I'm trying to preach through the work that really is just about looking after yourself, and it doesn't matter what we look like, because I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned through all of this, is that just to kind of take care of yourself, and whatever way you see that is, that's very different for every single person. And celebrate how we look. So yeah, it's kind of gone into this. It's very academic historically, but it has then gone into this body positivity area. And I seem to get very good audience engagement, and I hope it helps people. It's certainly in the exhibition format. It's certainly there's a lot of discussions around how people feel about themselves. It becomes more introspective. That's
one of the questions I have, because your art is partly painting, partly performance. And how do the blurred boundaries between that influence your audience? How do they react to it?
And I mean, there's images where I'm completely painted in clay and I just look like a sculpture. I look very Venus-esque sculpture. Some of them I try to purposely look that way, others are just natural, so you can kind of see. And there's a point in the exhibition where people walk around looking at my work and they go, oh, it's actually all the same person. There's, I mean, it's probably not going to happen so much now because I've got so much work on Instagram, but prior to my work being on Instagram, there was this oh, is this all one person? Is this all? And I'm like, yes, every single image is me in a disguised form or a real form. Actually, disguise is not the word, because I'm not trying to disguise myself, but it's a different way. And I like to mix the performance with the drawings. I'm trying to also push the boundaries of that. And push the boundaries of it as an internal gaze as well, because I think there's lots of boundaries pushed where other people are looking at other bodies. I'm trying to keep it internal, just to see what happens with that.
And you mentioned Marina Abramovic. She, by the way, has one of the largest exhibitions that just opened here in Amsterdam, in the Stedelijk Museum. In her performance art, she really looks for the limits of the body, explores the relationship between her as performer and the audience. Is that in a way what you do when you use your body as a canvas? And in your performance, is that looking for the limit, for the limits of your body, and then also see what it is you there as a performer and your audience, and how that relationship builds or not?
I think, I mean, Abramovic goes to kind of more extremes in her work, and I don't think I've hit those extremes. I think I'm more exploring it specifically through the lenses of body image. And I think the limits that start to get pushed start to come around specifically nudity. There's I'm having obviously with my Instagram at the moment, there's the whole image of the whole thing around what you can and can't show on Instagram. There's a
Oh
lot of
God, yeah.
yeah.
What I said, I disguised the pornographic because they can't make that distinction. That's the stupidity of the robot.
Yeah, it got the size. I think I'm playing with that. I think I'm playing with the perceptions of body image. I think they're the limits there. The self thought, the self thought, the internal thought, the external thought. They're the kind of limits that I'm playing with, which I suppose do resonate very much with people like Abramovic and Carrie. I love both of their work. Yeah, I think it took me a long time to get used to using my body in the way I do. I'm not going to pretend it was a very easy way to do it. I was making the work for a long period before I was sharing all of it. There was little snippets of it coming out that I felt comfortable with. And then I went to the Carrie Sheeman exhibition in 2022, and I met one of the curators, Lottie Johnson, and I said, how did Sheeman cope? Because she was quite groundbreaking in how she used her body back in the 70s even then, and she gave me lots of research to do, and it just made me go, do you know what, actually I need to do this needs to happen, it's important this happens, and it's uncensored. And I mean, I still haven't shared all my work. I'm still trying to get everything out of my archives to do it. So and obviously then I'm making new work as well, so and then there's this knowledge that's formed now, which I call it manufactured body knowledge. So the whole project's around how our bodies have been manufactured by society. Mentioned the male gaze, there's a female gaze. I call it the manufactured gaze because I look through all these different lenses, and then we've got this algorithmic gaze now as well. And then there's also this opposite thing that's happening, that where we're as humans, I think, becoming more self-accepting, but still on social media there's still this want to be something else, this more plasticity, that the way people are looking. So is this a war we're ever going to win? Is it always just going to continue this narrative around what people think they should be, what we are? Is that ever going to resolve?
Yeah, it is an interesting thing you mentioned social media, because I notice a lot of people, I don't think that Instagram can do that, but there are other social media apps where you can put a filter over yourself and you look like a doll or something. Your eyes start to transform as if you are a doll, and it's creepy. It's really creepy. You're not that. But I see a lot of people do it because they're not happy with themselves. And I have to be bluntly honest. I received 2 days ago a photo, and that's a photo of me when I was 35 years old. And I was shocked to the core, because I had, wow, that's a beautiful woman. But at that time, I didn't feel like that at all. I felt ugly. And I had like, this is shame. This is a shame, because you lose a lot of yourself, of your identity, of who you really are.
100%.
And I know why that was, but there's so many people now, and social media is applying filters so you can alter yourself, which to me is I think one of the causes of mental health issues with people, and especially younger people.
I agree. And I agree. And I think from an arts sense as well, it's a kind of portraying the arts differently to how it actually is. So I do try to just be really straightforward, really honest about my different practices, and not try to glamorize it either, because it's not glamorous. It's real. This is very real.
It's very
human.
real, but
real.
it is because we had just mentioned the male gaze, and the interrogation has been for centuries the male gaze. the idealizing of the female body, and you say, well, it's manufacturing. Yes, in a way, then they manufactured the idealized body.
Yeah.
But now you see how that has gone through. We saw it in fashion. We see it now in social media with filters.
Mm.
And even before, because a lot of the people you see are not who they really are. They're
Yeah.
photoshopped.
Yeah. Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and so the manufacturing went from painting to now. And the fun
Yeah.
thing, well, fun, I don't think it's fun, but still males who do this, who
Yeah.
create those apps, who create that software that's making this possible.
100%.
And so what you do is not only academic in the sense of art theory, or
Mm.
I think it's very philosophical
Yeah.
in the sense of who are we?
Of course. Of course. And then
Do
in the kind
you get that also, that kind of reactions? Does what you do also changes perceptions of people who see it?
100%, 100%, 100%, and they generally feel more positive after they've interacted with the work. And I'm very generous with sharing my research at the exhibitions as well. So I talk around a lot around Mary Douglas's Purity and Danger, how a kind of I subscribe to body fat specifically, how the kind of body fat then becomes matter out of place, so it becomes socially discriminated against.
Yeah.
And then I talk about that, but then that happens the other way as well, because when you're unwell, you also get discriminated against because it applies to the abject in the terms of Judah Christie's abject, in how when people experience an unwell person, they have this fear of their corporal self. So again, it's this kind of constant disgust. I've looked at it through Rosie Braidotti, and what our bodies potentially can become in the future. So I talk very much around what would be more commonly plastic surgery, but it is actually mine's not plastic surgery, mine was for medical reasons, for health reasons, but it is also a procedure that is put in the plastic surgery group. And I talk to people around, how do we take responsibility for our bodies? And that is the key question, because there can be a lot of criticism for what I've done, but on the same respect, is it a positive thing that I've taken responsibility for my health, or should I just have stayed large and been really proud of that? So I was never not proud, I was just unwell. So there's a lot of discussions that this brings up, and then the eating disorder thing amongst both men and women is so common. It's way more common, and I feel that my work is acting as this vessel for people to kind of look at and go, okay, yes, I relate to this, I understand. And then the images, I mean, it's really weird. I made the images and I thought they were quite grotesque, but everyone tells me they're really beautiful.
That's what I saw. I looked through your Instagram, and I had but these are beautiful images. They are. And it is very interesting because Karen Turner, who I had a conversation with, she also said, when women are fat, they have a lot of fat around themselves, it's immediately seen as unhealthy, but it's not true.
No,
it's not true.
No.
And those are beliefs and mindsets that kind of, And you also have that. Well, I wanted to know the different reactions from women who see your work and men. Do men have other reactions? Do you have thought-provoking positive positive conversations?
There is a lot of reactions where the work is seen as explicit or sexual, or people, some of the images, and I think in some of the images I may be pushing that a little bit, because when you put your hand on your body, depending on where you put your hand on your body, depends on how it's going to be a social reaction. But when you are just placing your hands, there's nothing else. There's no more intent in that other than a placement. And I think it does get perceived, and I can assure you it's not. There's nothing sexual intended about the images, but that then becomes another layer to the project, in terms of that. And there's a kind of, the word manufactured actually means how you create yourself, and manufacture in Latin means hand, how you create yourself with your hand. So that's why the hand appears in a lot of the images. But again, then that's so loaded. The gesture, touch, the haptic. Yeah, and I really played with that as well. Just because it kind of became fun. It became fun to kind of go, this is actually about taking ownership of my body and doing what I want to do with my body. But actually, it's now being perceived that someone may be getting pleasure from that, and but that's, you know, that's what the audience needs. That's what they need, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also have your current project. I am not your Venus.
Yeah, I'm not your Venus.
Yeah, can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I am not your Venus comes from a line of the artist's body being a commodity. So this is very actually heavily theoretical. So in art practice, you know, it's really talking around the commodification of arts and how we sell our work. And it kind of became clear to me. I mean, I'm deciding what to do this summer, but at the moment I actually don't sell any of my work. I've kept it as an archive. I've kept it as a whole portfolio, because when it sits in the exhibition, it needs to sit together. So if I start to remove a piece of work, it doesn't work that way. It became sort of apparent to me that my body is actually the commodity in this, because the exhibition works by me being present next to the work. If I'm not next to the work, it's still there, but there's a better discussion around it when it's what I call interaction, which is around when all the different social engagements take place around the work. So I am not your Venus is kind of the backlash to these images are not about me being your Venus. These images are about, and it's also aligned with the artist's body being a commodity, and how the body kind of becomes a sellable point, or and how that can be used in art practice, because performance art predominantly uses the body. So, but yeah, no, I'm not your Venus is the backlash to me. I'm not anyone's Venus. I'm just a person who was unwell.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of I'm not your trophy, something I'm working on. That's something like that. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can so imagine, because the way people can look at you, or maybe you look at other people, the way, which to me is always so kind of debilitating, you know, for women specifically, the way you are dressed, the way you look. You're all, if you are in business, you need to dress like somehow a business person. And it's all based on that one belief that we as women need to be.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It brings with us that a lot of people, a lot of women, not feel secure in their own body.
Yeah. And I think you touched on it earlier. I think it is something that is contributing massively to the mental health crisis at the moment. I think we've forgotten how to almost experience the world, the real world, which is obviously felt very bodily. But I'm hoping the kind of artworks do that in that way.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I wish that at one more point I want to come to one of your exhibitions and actually see the performance and how you do the drawings with it, and then yourself standing there and see how the interaction is with the people. Because in the end, we need people, we need each other. We don't need the conversations to go through images only. And that's what I like of performance art.
Yeah.
Specifically, because it's different from looking or gazing or staring or whatever you want to do to painting. I love painting. I mean, that's my forte. But one of the things, when I was doing my research, I was in the Amsterdam Museum, and I came because Abramovich, with her then partner, did a lot of experiments in the museum there. and I came through archives. And I really had like, yeah, I like the way they really touch upon how to go far and to just tickle your mind, tickle your brain, tickle your perception of everything in life. And I think that what you do and is specifically on your body and is a personal journey, but at the same time gives so many people like, oh, okay. So yeah, I'm allowed to feel like this. I'm allowed to think like this. Thank you for that.
Thank
Something
you
like
so
that.
much. That's really kind. That's really, really kind. And it's like I think 5 years ago when I was really struggling, I never would have thought I'd gotten to this place. I really thought I was just making this work for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to go in a box in my attic. And yeah, the day I first put it on Instagram and got the response I did, I was absolutely blown away. And it's the support that comes through it is just, it's, yeah. So I'm really so grateful. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
And even if I stop now and just do something else, I'd just be happy that I've had this experience and that it's hopefully help people in some way. But I hopefully will continue doing it. So I'm doing a very slightly different project at the moment, which my work is included in. I've got an exhibition next week.
Mm-hmm.
And the manufactured body project is going to be in one of the rooms there, but it's going to be more around manufactured body knowledge. So it's going to be more around the work of I'm Not Your Venus, and the images where you've got the drawings behind me and the paintings in front, which is, I call them becoming the painting, but they're very
Mm-hmm.
much around what our bodies can become and where they've been. And so it's going to focus on those two topics. To kind of highlight the remanufacture of knowledge. How can we redo that? How do we re-experience that? So it's not all the work, it's a sort of section of it. But the exhibition is called Finding Place.
Mm-hmm.
We've taken over a disused building. I'm co-curating it with Sophie Nowakowska, which is the professional art bullshitter in London. And we've invited artists to the site to talk to the audience about their work. So which is really great. There's lots of bodily themes. There's a couple of other artists that have got similar bodily themes to their work that I have in it. So that's going to be really exciting to see how that works with the
Yeah.
audience.
And where can people find that? Because
That is it's on at the Ancient Priors, which is a Grade 2 listed building in West Sussex, a place called Crawley, which is basically Gatwick Airport. It's the same place. So yeah, and then we're hoping to take it to London later in the year. So
yeah, great. Where else can people find you?
oh gosh, online, www.alisondollery.com. I've got a couple of exhibitions that I'm taking part in over the summer that are yet to be announced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then hopefully I will do another solo show at some point. So yeah.
Very exciting. Would be nice if you could come into the Netherlands also.
I love the Netherlands. Actually went to Amsterdam for the first time last year. Absolutely
Oh,
loved it.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
really
Yeah.
loved it. I've got family there now, so they've moved over there, so we went to visit them. So
Oh,
yeah,
great.
we'll
Yeah.
be back. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I have that with London. I just came back last year after 10 years. So I miss it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Instagram, they can find you on Instagram. Are you also on Facebook?
No, I'm not on Facebook.
Are
I
you
am,
on
but it's
YouTube?
not. No, I just use Instagram. Yeah, I kind of I have got an archive which mirrors my Instagram, but it is public, but I haven't advertised it. To be honest with you, I'm in this process at the moment trying to get everything out into
Hmm.
the world.
Hmm.
But because I'm also studying at the moment as well, I'm kind of just trying to get everything there. So it will happen over the next 6 months. Everything
Yeah.
will suddenly appear and be like, okay, even though some of the work hasn't been made public, it's quite old now. So especially some of the video performances. But yeah, but no, mostly Instagram and my website, and hopefully in the flesh, I think is where I really would like to engage the public. So if anyone would like me to come and exhibit, I would be really grateful.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So interesting to hear about your work. And yeah, and to me, it's very important work. So thank you for being here with me.
Thank
And
you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss my work in person.
Yeah, that's nice. And it's nice for others to hear also about it. And I hope they visit you because it's worthy. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.